The cargo ship Star Wanderer shuddered violently as it entered the atmosphere of the unknown planet. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit's control panel, bathing Jack's face in an ominous red glow. Next to him, his unexpected passenger, a crystalline being called Prism, emitted waves of worried blue light from their translucent body. "Brace for impact," Jack shouted, though he wasn't sure if the alien could understand him. The ship's universal translator had been damaged in the same solar flare that had fried their navigation systems and forced them into this emergency landing. The ground rushed up to meet them through the viewport, a landscape of purple-hued vegetation and jagged rock formations growing larger by the second. Jack pulled back on the controls with all his strength, trying to level their descent. The ship's hull screamed in protest as they hit the upper canopy of alien trees, each impact sending shockwaves through the cabin. With a deafening crash, the Star Wanderer plowed into the ground, carving a deep trench through the alien soil before coming to rest at the base of a towering cliff. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines, and the acrid smell of burning circuits filled the air. Jack's head throbbed as he regained consciousness. His safety harness had kept him alive, but every muscle in his body ached from the impact. Through blurry vision, he saw Prism still secured in the co-pilot's seat, their crystalline form dimmed to a faint purple glow that Jack had learned indicated distress. "Still alive?" he asked, more to himself than his alien passenger. To his surprise, Prism's body flickered with a pattern of white light that somehow conveyed acknowledgement. The ship's external sensors, miraculously still partially functioning, painted a grim picture of their situation. The atmosphere was thin and laden with sulfur compounds, barely breathable even with filters. Temperature readings showed extreme variations. The current daylight temperature was well above 40 degrees Celsius, but night readings predicted drops below freezing. Jack checked their emergency beacon. The casing was cracked, and only static emerged when he tried to activate it. He slammed his fist against the console in frustration, causing Prism to retreat slightly, their crystalline form contracting. "Sorry," Jack muttered, forcing himself to stay calm. "Let's check what supplies survived." They managed to salvage 3 weeks' worth of emergency rations, water purifiers, basic medical supplies, and 2 environment suits with damaged but functional filtering systems. The ship's cargo hold, full of mining equipment bound for an outer colony, was a twisted mess of metal and machinery. As they took stock of their supplies, the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows through the twisted wreckage of the ship. The temperature started to drop rapidly, and an eerie howl echoed from somewhere in the purple forest surrounding them. Jack looked at Prism, whose body now pulsed with a steady amber light. Despite their completely alien nature, he could sense they shared the same thought. They needed to find better shelter before nightfall. Neither of them knew what lurked in the darkness of this alien world, and neither wanted to find out while trapped in a broken ship. With the emergency pack secured to his back and Prism glowing softly beside him, Jack stepped out onto the alien soil. The purple vegetation crunched under his boots, and the sulfurous air made his eyes water even through the suit's filters. Their only hope for survival lay in working together, despite knowing nothing about each other's species beyond the basics of cargo ship diplomacy. The real test of survival was just beginning. The cave they found offered shelter from the harsh elements, but trust was harder to come by. Jack sat on one side of their makeshift camp, while Prism remained near the entrance, their crystalline form casting shifting patterns of light on the cave walls. The damaged universal translator crackled with static as Jack tried to make it work. "Look," he said, holding up a ration pack. "Food. Eat." He mimicked eating, though he wasn't even sure if Prism needed to eat the way humans did. Prism's body flickered with bands of green and blue light. The translator sputtered to life for a moment. Absorb. Light. Sustenance. Then it died again. Jack watched in fascination as Prism moved closer to a patch of bioluminescent fungi growing on the cave wall. The alien's crystalline form seemed to draw in the light, and their body glowed brighter afterward. "So that's how you eat," Jack muttered, making notes in his survival pad. As night fell outside, the temperature plummeted drastically. Jack shivered, wrapping himself in the thermal blanket from his emergency kit. To his surprise, Prism moved closer, emanating a gentle warmth through their crystalline form. "Thanks," Jack said, gesturing to his heart in what he hoped was a universal sign of gratitude. Prism's response was a complex dance of colored light that the translator partially caught. Survival. Together. Over the next few hours, they developed a crude form of communication. Jack would point to objects and say their names, while Prism would respond with different light patterns. They learned that rapid red pulses meant danger, steady blue meant understanding, and golden swirls indicated agreement. Their breakthrough came when Jack noticed Prism trying to recreate the shapes of his words using light patterns inside their crystalline body. He grabbed his pad and started drawing simple pictures. Prism quickly caught on, using their light patterns to add to or modify the drawings. Through this improvised sign language, they managed to share crucial information. Prism's people were called the Lumini, a species that communicated primarily through light and lived in vast crystal cities. They had been on a diplomatic mission when their ship was caught in the same solar flare that had damaged Jack's vessel. Jack, in turn, explained Earth and human society through simple drawings. He showed their solar system, spaceships, and cities. Prism's light patterns grew more complex and excited with each new piece of information. As they exchanged knowledge, the hostile planet seemed less threatening. The bioluminescent fungi in the cave grew more abundant, providing Prism with sustenance and Jack with better light to see by. Even the haunting howls from outside seemed less menacing when faced together. Their moment of connection was interrupted by a deep rumble from deeper within the cave. Both human and alien froze, their newly formed trust about to face its first real test. Through the darkness, pairs of reflective eyes watched them, and a low growl echoed off the cave walls. Survival would require more than just communication. It would demand absolute trust between two beings from entirely different worlds. Jack's stomach growled loudly in the cave's silence. Their food supplies were running dangerously low after 5 days on this hostile planet. He checked his ration pack. Only 3 meals remained. Prism noticed his concern, their crystalline form pulsing with questioning yellow light. Through their makeshift communication system of drawings and light patterns, they understood the problem. The bioluminescent fungi sustained Prism, but Jack needed more substantial nutrition. They had to hunt. The purple forest outside their cave held dangers they'd only glimpsed. Strange calls echoed through the alien trees, and movement flickered at the edge of their vision. But most worrying were the reports from Jack's suit sensors. They kept detecting life forms that seemed to vanish the moment he looked their way. Prism led the way, their body dimmed to a faint glow. They had explained through light patterns that their species could detect subtle variations in light reflection, a skill that proved invaluable when Jack spotted a shimmer in the air that wasn't quite natural. "There," he whispered, pointing at what appeared to be empty space between 2 twisted trees. Prism's form flashed a warning red. They saw it too. The creature revealed itself slowly, its skin shifting from perfect camouflage to its natural form. It was roughly the size of a large earth deer, but that's where any familiarity ended. Its 6 legs ended in retractable claws, and its skin seemed to flow like liquid mercury. Most disturbing was its ability to bend light around itself, making it nearly invisible. Jack raised his makeshift spear, crafted from ship debris, but Prism sent out a rapid pattern of light pulses that made the creature freeze. The alien's crystalline body began to strobe in a complex pattern, creating a disorienting display that confused the predator. In that moment of distraction, Jack struck. The spear found its mark, and the creature's camouflage ability failed as it collapsed. They had their first successful hunt. But their victory celebration was cut short. The creature's death cry echoed through the forest, and answering calls came from all directions. What they had thought was one predator turned out to be part of a pack. Prism's body flashed urgent red warnings as shapes began to materialize around them. The pack was using their camouflage abilities to encircle them, appearing and disappearing like ghosts among the trees. Jack backed up against Prism, spear ready. The alien's crystalline form brightened intensely, creating a protective circle of light around them. The predators hesitated, their camouflage abilities disrupted by the bright display. Together, they began their fighting retreat back to the cave. When one creature lunged, Jack's spear would strike while Prism's light show kept the others at bay. Their different abilities complemented each other perfectly, human instinct and alien perception working as one. They reached the cave entrance just as the planet's sun began to set. The predators wouldn't follow them into the tight space, but both Jack and Prism knew they had learned something valuable. On this deadly world, survival meant combining their species' unique strengths. That night, as Jack ate his first fresh meal since the crash, Prism's body glowed with warm colors that somehow conveyed pride and friendship. They had faced death together and emerged stronger. But in the depths of the cave, a strange pulsing light beckoned them toward an even greater discovery. The strange pulsing light drew them deeper into the cave system. Jack's handheld light revealed smooth walls that couldn't have been natural. They were too perfectly curved, too precisely carved. Prism's crystalline form flickered with excitement, their light patterns suggesting recognition of artificial construction. "This isn't just a cave," Jack muttered, running his hand along the polished surface. "Someone built this." They followed the corridor downward, the air growing warmer instead of colder. The walls began to show traces of embedded crystalline structures, similar to Prism's composition, but darker, more ancient. Prism's body resonated with these structures, creating harmonic patterns of light that danced across the walls. The passage opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Towering pillars of crystal rose from floor to ceiling, each pulsing with a faint inner light. At the chamber's center stood a structure that defied explanation. A floating sphere of pure energy, surrounded by rotating rings covered in symbols neither of them recognized. Jack's suit sensors went crazy, detecting energy readings unlike anything in his database. Prism approached the sphere, their body beginning to glow in response to its energy. Through their makeshift sign language, they conveyed that this technology felt both familiar and alien. It contained elements similar to Lumini crystal tech, but far more advanced. As they explored the chamber, they found more evidence of the ancient civilization that had built this place. Holographic displays flickered to life at their approach, showing star maps and diagrams they couldn't comprehend. The symbols seemed to shift and change, as if trying to communicate. Suddenly, the sphere in the center pulsed brightly, and both Jack and Prism felt a strange sensation in their minds. The air grew thick with energy, and the crystals in the walls began to hum in harmony. Their thoughts became fuzzy, yet somehow clearer at the same time. "Can you feel that?" Jack asked, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. Prism's response came not in light patterns but directly into Jack's mind, a mix of emotions and images that he somehow understood perfectly. The ancient technology was creating a bridge between their consciousness. The sphere's energy intensified, and streams of light connected it to both beings. In that moment, Jack saw flashes of crystal cities and star-spanning civilizations through Prism's memories, while Prism experienced the warmth of Earth's sun and the taste of rain. But the connection brought pain as well as wonder. Their minds weren't ready for such intimate contact, and the strain began to show. Jack fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the alien thoughts flooding his consciousness. Prism's form flickered erratically, their crystalline structure struggling to process the human emotions they were experiencing. Just as the sensation became unbearable, the sphere's light dimmed, and the connection faded. They were themselves again, but both knew they had been changed by the experience. The ancient technology had awakened something within them, a potential they had yet to understand. In the chamber's dim light, Human and alien looked at each other with new eyes, knowing their real journey was just beginning. After their encounter with the sphere, everything changed. Jack woke with fragments of alien memories mixing with his own. The feeling of absorbing starlight through crystalline facets, the sensation of communicating through pure light. Nearby, Prism's form shimmered with new patterns that somehow reflected human emotions. The mental bridge between them remained, weaker than in the chamber but persistent. Through it, Prism shared the truth of their diplomatic mission. They were in exile, sent away from the Lumini homeworld for questioning the rigid hierarchy of their crystalline cities. Their crime had been suggesting cooperation with other species, particularly humans. In return, Jack's memories flowed unbidden. The failed rescue mission that had haunted him for years. He had been too cautious, too afraid to take risks, and 3 colonists had died waiting for help that came too late. That's why he'd taken this dangerous cargo route, seeking redemption in the outer reaches of space. "You understand now," Jack said aloud, though speaking wasn't really necessary anymore. "Why I couldn't leave you behind when we crashed." Prism's response came as a wave of empathy and shared pain, their form glowing with colors that matched Jack's emotions perfectly. They had both been running from their pasts, only to find understanding light years from home. Through their strengthened bond, they began to discover new abilities. Jack found he could sense the subtle light variations that made Prism's species such excellent navigators. His mind processed the changes in illumination instinctively now, allowing him to spot the camouflaged predators before they attacked. Prism, in turn, began to understand human intuition and emotional reasoning. Their light patterns became more nuanced, incorporating human gestures and expressions. They could now project feelings in ways that even other humans would understand. But the mental bridge brought challenges as well. Sometimes their identities would blur, and they would lose track of where human ended and alien began. Dreams merged, creating visions of crystal cities under Earth's sun and human colonies growing from living crystal. One night, as they sat in their cave studying the strange symbols they'd copied from the ancient chamber, Jack felt Prism's concern ripple through their connection. "What is it?" he asked, though he already sensed the answer. Prism's response came as both light and thought. The ancient technology was changing them, breaking down the barriers between their species. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before. The question was, should they try to stop it, or embrace the transformation? In the distance, their crashed ship's emergency beacon suddenly crackled to life, sending a weak signal into space. Help was coming, but now they had to decide: maintain their separate identities, or continue down this path of unprecedented evolution. The rescue ship's signal grew stronger each hour. Above ground, its searchlights pierced the purple atmosphere, sweeping across the alien landscape. Jack and Prism stood at the entrance of their cave, watching the approaching salvation, or interruption. "They're ahead of schedule," Jack said, feeling Prism's mixed emotions through their link. The ancient chamber's energy sphere pulsed behind them, its power growing stronger, as if sensing their dilemma. Through their mental bridge, they shared the same thought. The ruins held secrets that could change both their species forever. The technology they'd discovered wasn't just a relic, it was a deliberate gift, left by an ancient race that had perhaps faced the same choice they now confronted. Prism's crystalline form flickered with rapid calculations, showing Jack visions of possibility. Their merged consciousness could bridge the gap between organic and crystalline life, creating understanding where fear and mistrust had ruled for centuries. But the price would be high. The rescue ship would quarantine them, separate them, study them. Their unique connection would be seen as a potential threat rather than an opportunity. Through their link, Jack felt Prism's memory of Lumini isolation chambers, designed to purify those who strayed from traditional forms. The sphere's pulse quickened, matching their racing thoughts. Its energy reached out, offering them something more than escape. In its light, they saw glimpses of what they could become, neither human nor Lumini, but something entirely new. "What we start here could change everything," Jack said, his words carrying waves of possibility through their connection. "Or it could destroy us both." Prism's response came as a burst of determined light, matched by a surge of shared courage through their link. They had survived a deadly crash, fought off alien predators, and discovered wonders beyond imagination. Fear of the unknown couldn't stop them now. Together, they turned away from the rescue lights and walked deeper into the cave. The sphere's energy embraced them, and the ancient chamber's crystals began to sing with harmonic frequencies that resonated through both flesh and crystal. Above ground, the rescue team would find 2 empty survival suits, a half-written log, and mysterious energy readings that their sensors couldn't explain. But in the depths below, something new was taking form. A bridge between worlds that would change the galaxy forever. A year passed before they emerged from the ancient chamber. When the second rescue team found them, they weren't sure what they were seeing. The beam before them seemed to shift between forms, sometimes appearing human, sometimes crystalline, sometimes both. "We are Jack Prism," they spoke, their voice carrying harmonics that made the rescue team's instruments sparkle with responsive energy. Their form settled into a stable state, a crystalline humanoid figure that pulsed with inner light, expressing emotions through both facial expressions and light patterns. The transformation had been gradual but complete. The ancient technology had merged them at the quantum level, creating a hybrid consciousness that could exist in multiple states simultaneously. They could shift their physical form between solid and crystalline structures, combining human adaptability with Lumini energy manipulation. The rescue team maintained a safe distance as Jack Prism explained what they had discovered. The ruins belonged to a species that had evolved beyond physical form, leaving behind tools to help others follow their path. They had chosen Jack and Prism as worthy candidates, testing their ability to trust and understand across the boundaries of species. The deadliness of this planet was intentional, they explained, their form shifting slightly to emphasize their words with patterns of light. It forced us to depend on each other, to trust beyond our differences. Only then could we be ready for the gift they left behind. The planet's predators now avoided them completely, sensing something beyond their understanding. Jack Prism could communicate with the crystalline structures throughout the cave system, accessing ancient knowledge that had waited eons to be discovered. But their most valuable discovery was the possibility of harmony between different forms of life. Their merged consciousness proved that the gap between organic and crystalline life could be bridged, that differences could become strengths rather than barriers. When they finally left the planet, it was as an ambassador of possibility. The Lumini Council and Earth's governments alike were forced to reconsider their assumptions about the nature of life and consciousness. Jack Prism became living proof that evolution didn't have to mean leaving everything behind. It could mean finding new ways to bring different worlds together. They established the first true bridge between human and Lumini space, teaching others to see beyond their preconceptions. While few chose to follow their path of complete merger, their example opened doors for deeper understanding between species. The deadly planet was declared a sanctuary, its dangers protecting the ancient ruins until others might be ready to discover their own path to evolution. And in the depths of its caves, the energy sphere pulsed steadily, waiting for the next worthy visitors to unlock their deepest desires for connection across the stars.